Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you have a great week and hope you had a great weekend. We have an exciting live stream for you today. I've got Jesse with me, and Jesse is going to be teaching us all about open source by going through the journey herself. But before we get into that, and before I tell you about the agenda, Jesse, please give yourself an intro. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your awesome podcast, where we look forward to hearing all about it.
Yeah, super excited for today's live stream because I'm going to be getting to figure out how to contribute to open source from the expert himself. I'm Jesse. I'm a software engineer at a tech startup called CyberSafe. I'm part of the Coding Black Females leadership team, and with them, I've done a lot of things, including running boot camps and workshops, but also most recently with Amber, I've been the co-host of a tech podcast called Glowing in Tech. So yeah, do come and have a listen to that.
Awesome. And Jesse's link is in the description below. So go drop her a follow on Twitter, and then you can find all the other links from there as well. So we've got some highs in the chat already. So Ashwani, thank you so much for being here. Adi, Nitin, Chandra, this is my first early morning live stream for Hacktoberfest. So I'm super excited to do this, and great to have you all here. And Jesse, thank you so much for kicking this off. So what we're going to do today, let me bring up my screen, and Jesse's going to be sharing her screen as well. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be showing Jesse EdiHub, showing Jesse the workflow for contributing to open source. We'll probably start off with the Hacktoberfest practice repo, and then link-free project, and then we'll see where it goes and see what questions and ideas you all have as well. So if I give a bit of a background and on the projects, and then I think maybe Jessie should share her screen, and then we can walk you through it as well. So for now, this is the EdiHub GitHub org, and I'm viewing it as a member, so I'm just going to change that to public so you get to see what most people will see. Let me make that a bit bigger as well. So this is what most people will see. You have steps to get started. Actually, this is probably a really good thing to actually run through for Jesse to see if I've missed any steps. But the idea is you can join our organization, then you join our Discord, and again, you can miss some of these, Jesse. Then the interesting one here is step 3, which is add your name to the Hacktoberfest practice repo. Hopefully the instructions are good in the repo again, and maybe that's some contributions we can all make today by improving. This is why I love getting new people into open source and into the EdiHub projects, because we kind of get to reset the documentation or like just verify it every time. And people have different operating systems, different background, different experiences. So I think it's always great to see if we're missing anything. And sometimes we do miss things or make assumptions or use I don't know, looks good to me, LGTM, and people don't know what that means. And I think we need to improve all of that. And then after that, link-free project, which will look something like this, link-free. And if I go to my profile, it's kind of like Linktree, the open source version of Linktree, and version 2 is coming out soon, where you get stats on all your clicks and your profile views and so forth. So what do you think, Jesse? What should we do first? Are you happy to give Hacktoberfest practice a go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this is the repo, and we do have some docs in the README, and we specifically say right at the top, this repository is not included in the Hacktoberfest event. It is practice, so that's good to practice that. And this has improved a lot over time and changed, but let's see what you think. And the idea is to add your name to the list in the file. So Jesse, we're here to support and help, but when you want to share your screen, let us know, and let's walk through it and let's see how it goes. And everyone watching, feel free to follow along and ask questions in the chat as well.
Great. Okay, let's give it a go.
While you're doing that, let me catch up with the chat. So we've also got Nikita as well, Arian. Dean's here as well. Dean in Australia. It must probably be evening for you already. Thanks, Dean, for joining. It's good if I do early morning ones as well. We get to get people from all around the world. Anish, Marcus, how you doing? Sean, always supporting. Hey Tom, how you doing? Tamal, Aniki. I want to pronounce that wrong. I'm so sorry. I should be bringing these up on the chat, so my apologies, everyone. Okay. When you're ready, Jesse, bring your screen up and I will add it onto the live stream, and we can all follow along. Just finished work about 6 p.m. Time for dinner. Okay. Here's Jesse's screen, so I'm not going to be driving. Jesse, do you mind zooming in on that a bit, please? If you're able to zoom in enough so it's perfect. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And Jerome from Paris. Awesome. Hey, Kelvin. Okay. So
Start with the Hacktoberfest practice?
Yeah, do it. Let's go. Let's get started. Let's do that whole kind of forking, branching, all that workflow. Let's have a look and see.
Okay.
So talk through what you're doing, and any questions, just ask us.
Yeah, so I'm starting with the README, which is usually the first place you go to check how to contribute to a project. And so option 1, complete this in GitHub in your browser. Okay, cool. Shall I do it this way? Go with option 1.
Yeah, I think do it in the browser, definitely. Yeah, I think keep it simple, and we can do the next one if you want on the terminal as well. We'll see how you're feeling, right? It's Monday morning. Okay. Let's see how it goes. So start off easy. Yeah, I'd say do it all in the browser.
Great. So click the grey fork button and create a copy of the project. It saves it as a new repository in your GitHub account. Great.
If I can interrupt for a second, I'm already throwing a spanner in the works. You could probably, I'm pretty sure, just click on the edit button and it will do a fork for you already. Ooh. So I think now if you're doing it on the command line, you have to click the fork button. But I'm pretty sure if you click on the README file itself, so now you're kind of previewing it under the file list. But if you scroll up and actually go to the readme.md, further up slightly, in the file list. There you go. Yeah. Now you'll just see that file, and now you've got an edit button at the top right of the file, and if you click it, it should automatically fork it for you.
This one?
Yes.
Oh, so fork and edit in file.
So it kind of does it in one step.
Sweet.
So now it's gonna fork it for you and take you straight into the pull request workflow. So it's a lot easier from that sense. But the steps are there, so you can still kind of see what you need to do as well. I don't know. Should we make a note on that, or is that going to confuse people?
I didn't know that was a thing before. That's super cool to know. Okay, great.
Okay, I'll stop talking. You keep going.
Okay, so on the top right, click the pencil after editing, add a commit message, and click on the screen. Right, so now I've got to go and find where I'll be adding my name. Am I adding it in here?
Yep, keep going. It's in alphabetical order, hopefully. I think it's just done on the first name.
Okay, cool.
So it's going to be a long way down.
Wow, there's a lot of people already. Is this just from this year?
No, this is from, I think, last probably 2 years.
Okay, sweet. Oh, I've missed J.
We should probably make it so there's multiple or a file for each category maybe, and then get a GitHub action to merge it all together or something. It's getting quite long.
Okay.
While you're having a look for that, I'm just going to answer some of the questions in chat. So Forever Night says, I had a question. I was finding open source projects to get into open source, but I was finding repos that are not relevant to my knowledge and experience. So when you're searching GitHub, I would recommend searching for topics that are relevant to what you're doing, like React or Kubernetes and so forth. And you can also search for labels as well. That's what I suggest to do. And also join some communities that are in your tech stack. And then they'll have projects that you can contribute to. And the projects that you use in your tech stack as well, I would recommend contributing to those.
Should I add in the description the specific thing? I guess this is the commit message, right?
Or is this the PR description? No, this is the commit description. So actually where it says update README, that's the way you want to put the commit message.
Okay, cool.
And then the PR description will be in the next stage. And do you just want to talk through what you changed as well in the file?
Yeah, so I added my name and my GitHub link to my profile.
Awesome. One thing I've noticed, I don't know if anyone else notices it, is space.
Yeah, that's
Markdown is really specific on spaces. So I was doing some Markdown yesterday with Sarah, and she didn't put a space after the dash, so therefore she didn't get like a bullet point list. So spacing is really important in Markdown. But that would have got picked up in a pull request. So if anyone watching, if you do commit something that isn't quite right, don't worry. Someone will just mention it, and you can then just make more changes to it later on. So that looks good.
Amazing.
I think that looks good. Yeah,
So to propose
propose it.
changes?
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
awesome.
If in doubt, everyone, just click the button. This is GitHub. You can't make any mistakes. If in doubt, just click it. And so this is the pull request. It's suggesting you go from your fork on the right hand side, patch one, over to the left. So you got the drop downs along the top. So it's going from the right hand side to the left hand side, which is all, I filled it in for you. It's all correct already. So it's good. It's got your commit underneath, and then you can click create pull request. And then now this is the title for the pull request and the description. Again, for this sort of repository where it's practicing, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But when you're making kind of, coding changes, testing changes, documentation changes, it's really important to add more information. But you can just hit create pull request for now. I don't think.
Awesome. And quick question.
Sure.
Will all of the, each project, will this be determined by
Great
you?
question. So we've used a template for this. And so it's pre-filling the pull request with a template for the author to fill in. Not every project does that. Sometimes it'll be empty. Sometimes it'll look different. So this is actually in the code base as well under the .github folder. So if if template can be improved by anyone watching or yourself, Jesse, you can make improvements to this template as well, just by following the same workflow, going to the .github folder, and then it says pull request template.md. You can just edit that file, create a pull request, and then future pull requests will have that new template as well. So it's awesome that everything's managed within that repository. So yeah, that's looking good. If you want to go hit create, and then I can steal the screen share back, and we can get it merged in. So just to give the a kind of anatomy of the pull request, it looks very much like an issue. However, this has files changes attached to it and some automation running. You can see it's running some checks against it, and then people can leave comments below. People can do inline comments. And you've got a welcome message from the bot as well. So that's cool. Okay, I'm going to steal the screen share back, and we'll come back to your screen in a moment. So you don't need to unshare your screen. Keep it for the moment because we're going to come back to you shortly. I'm just going to bring mine up on the screen for now. So if we go to pull requests, I should see Jesse's here. Here we go. And this is what we were seeing on Jesse's screen in dark mode. That's actually good you've got it in dark mode, because then everyone knows whose screen we're looking at.
Oh, yeah.
So all checks have passed. And then what I can look at is I can look at the commits, but it also shows it to me underneath. You can see it's verified, so that's awesome. You can see the automation passed, and this is the commit hash itself, and I can click on the tab to see the commit. I can click on the tab to see the checks, but again, it all appears here because I can click show checks. There's only one check on this repo. Some repos have 5 or 10, but I can also see files changed. And this is what I actually want everyone in the audience to pay attention to is you all can review pull requests, even if you're not a maintainer on the project. And what that means is if I just jump to my profile for a moment, underneath here, more important than the green squares on this tile, although everyone likes to get green squares, is this contributing graph. And hiring managers and recruiters and all the rest do look at this as well, because they want to see it's not 100% at commit. A lot of people have 100% at commit, and they don't know how to do code reviews, they don't know how to raise issues, and they don't know how to do pull requests. So it's important to try and get a balance here. Obviously, it doesn't be perfect, and it's quite hard to do that. But people, you don't have to be a maintainer on the repo. All of you can go click on the pull request, click on files changed. You can all leave a comment if you wanted to. This looks fine, so there's no comment to be left here. And then you can click on review changes, and you can everyone watching, you can all click approve and leave a comment. So I can just say looks great. And then now that's going to add to my contributing graph. But please, everyone, don't just do that if you haven't reviewed it. And asking questions helps as part of the review. The only thing you won't be able to do as a maintainer if you're not a maintainer on the project, is click this button here. So as I'm a maintainer on the project, I can click the button, but you all can review it and leave comments and so forth. So I'm going to hit squash. I'm going to squash and merge it. And then now in the main readme, I should say, in the repo and the readme. So if I go back right at the beginning, last commit was by Jesse, now, and if I scroll down all the way down to here and go to J, we will see Jesse. Here we go. I click it and it goes to your profile and it works.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the workflow for open source, everyone. So it's not that scary and you can use the GitHub UI. So before we go into some more complicated contributions, I see Tom's already noticed that I made a mistake. Tom says, I didn't change the commit message. Yeah, I was kind of being a bit lazy. So I just kind of hit merge, but you're right. When I squashed it, I should have changed the commit message to kind of be the same standard as what we use for the repo. But as it's just the Hacktoberfest practice repo, I'm not going to be too hard on myself. Hopefully the rest of the community won't be either. Let's have a look. So what did I miss in the chat? You're welcome. Love the questions, so keep them coming, everyone. Hey, Solly. Brilliant. I'm glad you get the PR part. It is really confusing at first, and we're going to do the next one hopefully on the command line to show you all that workflow as well. Hey, Krishna, how you doing? Hey, Carl, awesome to have you here. I think the contribution graph gets reset monthly, doesn't it? I think it does. Yeah, I think you're right. Is it allowed or even possible to post a link to a tweet with 5 great options to contribute? I think so. Yeah, anything you can do to add value in a tweet, I think, is really good, and they do really well. So my graph is awesome. It's not. You should look at Tom's or Carl's. Theirs are really good. Okay, so next, I'm going to pass the screen share back to Jesse. And Jesse, if you can scroll to the top. Oh, people have left some comments already. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. You all rock. So if you scroll right to the top and click on a bit further up and click on Eddie Hub Community. So right at the top left. Yep. And it's going to go back to the organization. And the next project I recommend we do is the link-free project. And I think we should do this on the command line. And my commits need to be good because our whole deployment process all deploys and gets it live because, as part of our commits. It looks for certain messages, so I can't take any shortcuts on this one. So I think it'd be really good if you added your profile and your links to your podcasts and anything else on here as well. So I think with this one, we should do it on the command line. Are you happy to do that?
Yeah, so grab a terminal.
Yes, yeah, grab a terminal. So you'll need to fork it first and then clone your fork, and then we can run through keeping your your fork up to date and all those things.
Okay,
that
great.
I think it's a bit scary. So I would click fork first.
Yes, on the drop down or the big one?
Hit the big one, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the drop down's for actually. That's a new thing. But yes, you can, maybe it's just a shortcut to select which owner you want, but it all looks good to me. I would just hit create fork. Close to 1,000 forks, yeah. Hey, Praduma, how you doing? Hey, Void, hey, Zaya. Awesome to have you all here. So now you've got your forked version, which is great. So now you would clone this one.
Okay.
I would recommend, using the SSH rather than HTTPS as well. You'll have to share your terminal or your whole screen as well, by the way.
Yeah, let me just move out of, oops, 1 second.
No worries, take your time. Krishna, you're right, it's 26th today, so Hacktoberfest registration starts, I think, later today. I think it's maybe on US time, I'm not exactly sure the time. But yes, that's true. Hey Mod, how you doing? Awesome to have you all here supporting. Thank you so much. My first early morning stream. I plan to keep doing them throughout Hacktoberfest, so let's see how it goes. By the way, everyone, I hope you give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you follow Jesse also on Twitter, link in the description below. Okay, what else have we had in the chat? How was everyone's weekend? Hope your weekend was good. Hope you're looking forward to Hacktoberfest, and if you have any questions, leave it in the chat. We have some amazing people in the chat who can really help as well. Oh, 10 hours remaining, okay. Hey Dean, why do I recommend SSH over HTTPS? Oh, great question. For a couple of reasons actually. So I really prefer SSH because I can use my SSH keys with GitHub. I don't have to keep typing in Okay, this is going to sound right, but wrong. I'm going to have to keep typing in my password every time I want to do a pull or push. But I do because I actually have a password on my SSH keys. But I feel it's more secure because I'm not typing in a password to get transmitted over the wire. I'm typing a password for my SSH key, which will then I have the public version on GitHub to match it up. I explained that so badly. Dean, I know you're in the DevOps space. Maybe you can answer that a bit better than me. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons I really prefer it as well. Will I register for Hacktoberfest? It's a good question. I do just to plant. I think I will just to plant a tree. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I'm just happy to help people with Hacktoberfest. So, what about yourself, Carl? What do you think? I'm definitely not going to get a T-shirt. I haven't had a T-shirt for the last 3 years. So, yeah. Monday morning is tough. I'm having essentially all my sync calls on Monday morning. Oh no. Okay, well, we'll do our live streams together, Carl, on a Friday, which I might push to be a bit later, about maybe 9 p.m. UK time, which would be 10 for you, which might be a bit too late. I'm not sure. Let me know. Oh, Marcus is right. SSH could be an issue with corporate networks. Yeah, I know, those corporates, right? They don't want us to do our work. They kind of tie one hand behind the back. Okay, Jesse's ready, I think. So, Jesse, you've made it bigger. Perfect. You're going to clone the repo, exactly. So this is the command, everyone, to clone. And you do get an optional parameter at the end if you wanted to rename the directory. But you don't have to, and it will just make it link-free is the directory name. So that's perfect. Okay, finger crossed this works. Let's have a look. Yes, plant a tree, definitely. Yes, registrations will start from today, but contributions are only from the 1st of October. That's correct. Yes, we have lots of repos you can contribute to, just not the Hacktoberfest practice one. Yeah, I think from security, it's definitely better. Yes, definitely plant a tree, Tom. That'd be awesome. Okay, that's taking quite a while. Does it usually take this long?
No, it doesn't usually take this long.
Do you usually clone over SSH or do you do another one?
Yeah, no, I usually do it over SSH.
Okay. You could Control C and start again. I don't know if that. I wonder if there's a flag we could put like V to show us exactly what's happening. Let me see if there's a verbose flag. Let me check. Git clone. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. Verbose. Let's have a look. I don't know if there is one or not. Apparently there is. Okay, so if you do, I don't know where you would do. Yeah, after the clone, do -- progress space -- verbose and then the URL. Apparently that should work according to the internet. I've never tried it before. Let's see. I'm hoping for some more output, but I'm not seeing any much more output, so it's not going so good.
Why?
We can always do it in the browser, but I'm really keen to show the command line. We could always maybe do it over HTTPS as well, but you'd have to put in your password, which I think it is starred out. I just don't like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's give it a moment. Your internet's really good, so it's obviously not your internet. The project isn't massive, so it's not because it's got loads of binaries in it. So I'm not sure. Let's give it a moment still.
Yeah, super strange.
It is really strange. Let's see if anyone in the chat has some suggestions. Let's have a look. Hey, Nirban. Oh, yeah, that's true. Tom does have a UI tool, and Produma has a CLI tool to help us do the whole link-free JSON file. That's true. I completely forgot about that, Tom. Thank you so much. You can bypass SSH filters if you know how. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Could not read the remote repository, make sure you have the correct access right. But that's your account, so that's interesting. Because it's your fork that you're doing. And you should be able to clone any repo on GitHub anyway. It's just you wouldn't be able to push to it. So that's the error people usually see when they're pushing to a repo. Okay, interesting. We could do a bit of debugging, but I don't want to obviously waste too much time on that as well. So we could just
Hmm.
do it within the browser potentially. It's not as fun for everyone just to see it within the browser. Do you want to try cloning over HTTPS?
Yes,
Try
let's give
try
that a go.
that.
Okay, use Git or check out this. Okay, cool. So, is it the same thing? Is it a Git
Yeah,
clone?
exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah, so that was a lot faster. That was a lot better.
Strange though. I wonder why my SSH isn't working.
That's true. I am not sure why. We can always have a look later on and
Hmm.
see. So the next step, which I always forget, is to navigate into the directory. So everyone watching, when you're doing this on any project, no matter what technology it's using, they usually say clone the repo, then npm install, or whatever the package manager is for that language, and they get an error. And most documentation is missing that navigating into that directory. So as a tip of how you can contribute to some projects, make sure there's no steps or assumptions missing. So perfect. Okay, so you're in there now. How would you like to make changes to some files? Do you use VS Code? Do you want to use Vim? What do you use?
I've got Python. I don't think I have VS Code, but I
Oh,
think I should be able
PyCharm.
to.
That's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah, we're only
yeah.
changing a JSON file, so it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I don't know if you want to open the project in PyCharm, and then
Yeah, let me do
we
that.
can have a look. Oh yes, and Carl is saying Gitpod would be a solution as well. That is very true. Um, Very, very true. Okay, we will do that on maybe the next project or the next live stream. And great suggestion, Tom. If everyone's looking for good projects to contribute to, there's the Finder project on EddieHub, which will find projects for you, but also written by Carl and led by Carl. But you also can contribute to that specific project as well. Okay. Jesse, let us know when you're ready. We'll see PyCharms appear, so no
Yeah, I'm
problem.
just trying to find the folder in my. Trying to open the project
Okay.
in PyCharm. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I got it. I got
What I
it.
love about VS Code is I just type VS Code dot and it just opens in the directory that I'm in. So it's just like so convenient. I think every IDE needs that. That's like a major plus. Um, I think feature definitely. Okay. Enjoy
Right,
your
okay.
next call, Carl. Thanks for joining. Oh, that's true. Produma is saying we have got a tool to help us do it. Let's try that first. So before you can open it in PyCharms, but before you change your screen share, keep the terminal on there, and we're going to try
Hmm.
something. Okay, so I actually haven't tried this yet, so I want to see this. So what you'll need to do is do npm install first to install the project's dependencies. Actually, it should have been npm in CI. My mistake. But that's fine. Doesn't matter. Um, and then I mentioned before, Tom wrote a UI tool to create the JSON file, and also Produma wrote a CLI tool, and the CLI tool is part of the dependencies of the project. So we can give this a go. It should create the JSON file for you. Then we can open it in PyCharms just to make sure you're happy with it as well. So
Amazing.
Produma, does it put the file in the right place, in the right directory for us as well? I can't remember. Thanks, Carl. We'll see you hopefully in 30 minutes. Okay, let's have a look. Real live stream test to see. No pressure, Produma or Eddie, on me as well. Should have checked it before. Thanks for joining my Twitter space yesterday. Yep, every Sunday I do a Twitter space as well. So it keeps me busy. It's always great to geek out with you all. Okay. Oh yes, it'll be put in the right place. Perfect. So it's even easier for us. So perfect. Good morning, Shabangi. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't get stuck. Come on, everyone, keep your fingers crossed. Come on, npm. That last one. Hopefully it's okay. Anyone, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. We are more than happy to answer. Produma's CLI works like a charm. Awesome. Isn't a charm Jesse's a Python developer, so isn't Charm like npm package? Do they call it PyCharm? Oh, PyCharm's is the IDE. No, it's what's your package manager? Is it pip or something in Python?
Yeah, pip.
Okay, I was thinking it was a charm, but no, it's a pip. Sorry. Oh no, that last one's taking a bit too long. We might have to do it manually by hand, but it's just a JSON file. It's not too bad. Okay, so while that, maybe leave that running, but I think that's going to time out. Do you want to open your PyCharms? Maybe we'll.
Oh, I did it.
Oh, we did it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Praduma, what was we can check documentation actually. So if you go to your perfect and then scroll down in the README, there should be something on the CLI. I'm pretty sure we added it. For those who want to contribute to Hacktoberfest, adding your profile to Linkfree, like we're going to do now, doesn't count as a Hacktoberfest contribution, by the way. To do it before Hacktoberfest starts. Perfect. That's for contributing. Add your profile. Brilliant. This looks good. Okay, I want to let you keep reading, Jesse. I'm going to answer a question in the chat, but you're looking for a CLI command, and if something doesn't make sense, let's make some improvements to the documentation. So Bavish asks, how do I start being a maintainer of Hacktoberfest? The best way to become a maintainer on any project is to start being really helpful on the project and start reviewing pull requests already. You can't merge them because you're not maintaining it, but you can still review them. You can still ask people questions. You can still provide people feedback. You still help people. And then when the project wants to grow its maintainers team, who are they going to ask? They're going to ask the people who are already doing it already. So that's what I highly recommend for any project. Oh, Praduma says, no, there's still an issue open for adding that. So there's a green square if anyone wants it. Add what we're going to do next to the documentation because it's not there.
Okay, cool.
Hey Chai, how you doing? Okay, so Praduma, you need to walk us through it. But what we can do actually is if we go to PyCharm, we can look in package JSON and we can actually have a look. So if you open are you able to zoom in a bit?
Yes.
Perfect. And everyone, while we're waiting for Jesse to zoom in, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Really helps support the channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. So if you open in the root of oh sorry, you're zooming in, sorry.
Yeah, but I'm struggling.
I don't know. Can you like use Mac or Control Plus? Does that work?
So I was trying, but doesn't seem to be happy with that one.
Awesome, thanks Tom. Yeah, that's the issue. So 1728 is the issue to add it to documentation to README. Anyone wants to grab that, feel free to go ahead. Or we could do it on the command line. We can do it on the command line because that's zoomed in and that's bigger. So what I would suggest is if you do vim package.json, we can see what the command is to run. So if you go down to scroll down to scripts, we should see the scripts are the command. So people not familiar with npm with vim. With npm, I was correct the first time. Scripts section these are the commands that can be run on the project, and you would run them with npm npx run and then the name that we see on the left. Cool. So the one that we want it looks like it's called create, and that's so we can do. Yeah, so now if you exit that, this is a real test now, how to exit Vim.
Oh God, is it?
Escape, Q.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It took me years to figure this out. I don't know why. It took me years. I'm no joke. It really took me years. So if you run npx run, and then the word create, because that's what was in the package JSON, now it's going to bring us a CLI wizard and ask us questions. Need to install the following packages. Huh? Oh, we don't need run. Sorry, my mistake. If you use the npm command, you'd run. But I think you should be able to do npx. So if you control C that, Praduma has shared the link. Shared the command npx linkfree -CLI.
Link3 hyphen CLI and then
Yeah,
create.
without the create, sorry.
Okay.
But we should be able to do it with the create, but I'll have a play later on. It's Monday morning brain for me still. Okay, so what is your GitHub username? So you need to keep this exactly how it's written on GitHub.
I think that's how it's written on GitHub. Yeah.
Perfect.
My name.
This is what you want to do, display on your Link3 profile, like how you want to see. You can change it later. It's a JSON file. It's going to be personal. Short bio. I mean, you could go to your Twitter maybe and just grab, or your GitHub and just copy and paste it again. You can change this later. Whatever is easier for you. Almost 1K of forks on Link3. That's awesome. Perfect, love that.
Amazing.
Okay, so file created successfully. And if you do a git status, we can see where that file was created. So we can see it's created in public data jessebell.json, which is the correct location. So that's perfect. And I made a mistake earlier because I said to Jesse to run npm install rather than npm ci. It's changed the package lock file. So we need to remove that so it actually doesn't. So it doesn't
1 second, Eddie. I think my door has just gone.
Oh, no worries. You carry on. So we need to remove that to make sure it doesn't get committed to the repo, because we don't want to keep changing a lock file on every commit. So everyone who's watching, whenever you do a commit, make sure you're committing the files that you've changed, that you want. Don't just do kind of a dot, which I'll show you in a minute. Make sure you specify what files you're committing, because you're responsible for those files and you want to make sure you don't include anything private. So yeah, it works. First time I've actually seen it. Oh, maybe I tried it once already, but right at the beginning, and I'm sure you've done some different versions and improvements in that since then. So that's awesome, Paduma. Absolutely love that, and people love using the command line too. And I know Tom has an awesome UI version as well for people who want to do that. So very, very cool. To both, thank you so much. Okay, so everyone's following along so far. You know how to fork a project. You know how to clone a project with SSH or HTTPS. And then now we're going to commit the file and push it to our fork. So, all good, Jesse?
All good. Just another delivery.
No worries. I know the feeling. So I was just saying that the package lock, we don't want to commit that. And there's a couple of things we can do here. We could type git checkout and a file name, and it will kind of put it back to the previous commit. Or when we make our commit now, we make sure we don't commit it. So I'm going to leave it changed purposely so people can realize and see how they can do a commit by specifying the files and not just committing everything. So what I'd recommend, there's two ways, actually there's three ways you can do this. It can either be, we can either stage the files that we want to commit, or when we do the commit, we can specify the file. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. We'll do it the easiest way and the way I prefer. I only stage files when I've got lots of things going on and I want to kind of do multiple commits. But as we want to do one commit, I think we don't need to use stage files for this. We can do the commit of the specific file directly. So if you do your git command, Jesse, which would be git, well, commit, I don't remember it now, -m, because we want to give it a title, and then double quotes, so you can put your message in there, and yeah, whatever makes sense. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then don't hit enter, Jesse. So if Jesse did hit enter, now it would only commit the stage files, but we have nothing staged. So therefore, actually nothing would happen. Another thing a lot of people do is you can specify the files here. So you're kind of skipping the staging process. And a lot of people write dot here. And please, everyone, never, 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 ever write dot here. Because if you have private keys, if you have passwords or anything, it's just all going to get committed. Always specify the file. So here we could specify the entire path, or actually as there's only one file there, we could just say public, and it will commit everything that's changed in public. But as we've only got one file in there, it's fine. It will leave package lock alone because that's in a different path. So perfect. So if you hit enter, and I've made a cardinal mistake, and no one, picked up on that, is we did not do a branch first. So this commit didn't work, which is absolutely perfect. And
Yeah.
the reason why it didn't work is because the file isn't tracked by Git. So we can double check that. If you do git status -s, this will be a lot clearer. This is what I use all the time. So you can see modified is packaged lock. So if we did a commit and that was included in the path or whatever, the dot or whatever we're using, then that would get committed. But actually the JSON wouldn't, because it's not being tracked by Git. So we actually need to track that by Git first. But before we do that, let's create a branch, because we should do everything always in a branch to avoid conflicts in the future. Because as everyone saw in the previous Hacktoberfest practice repo, we squashed the commit, and that could cause conflict with ourselves in the future as well. So, yep, check out -b and the name of the branch, and the branch can be anything that you want.
Do there tend to be naming conventions for branches in open source?
Yes and no. I think it was a lot more so back in the day when branches were more long-lived, but now because they're short-lived and kind of deleted, I find it less important.
Okay, cool.
So people sometimes do feat for feature, like and then / or fix / and then and then the issue number or something like that. But because they're short-lived, I don't worry too much about them. And if we do a git status -s, it should look exactly the same. No files have been committed or lost or changed. It all looks the same. So the next thing we should do, we should get Git to track the new file. So we can do git add, and everyone please don't do dot on any of these git commands. Specify the path or part of it. Perfect. So if you do that now and you do a git status -s, we can see the git add command does two things. It adds it to be tracked by Git, but also stages it. Because if you look, you've got the M's on the right column and the A's on the left column in green, and that shows the left columns are the ones that are tracked. The left columns are ones that are staged. So that's currently staged. So we could now go up through your history and do your commit command, and that should now work. And in theory, you don't have to add the public because it was staged, but if you do, that's even better. Perfect. So now if we do a git status, it should say we've got a commit that hasn't been pushed. Changes to be committed. Did it not get committed? One file changed, created. Do a git status. I know why. Do a git status again. This is actually really interesting. This might confuse people. Do we get git status with -s at the end. I just find it so much easier. And it's got M and M, and one's green and one's red. So what that means is we made changes to the file, or the file got created from the CLI tool. And then we added it, so it went green. But then we did the commit, and the commit's got a pre-commit hook, which ran, I think I saw it above, it ran linter and prettier, and so it made changes to the file with the formatting. So now we have changes that are unstaged. This is quite confusing, actually. I think we need to maybe make this a bit easier for people, because this actually could be, quite confusing.
Because in theory now, could I get confused by the fact that it's not committed, try and commit it again, and get stuck in a loop where it keeps modifying it with the tasks?
It wouldn't modify it again because it's now formatted correctly. So I don't think you'd get stuck in a loop, but I could see how someone could think, well, why has the file changed? It didn't make any changes. So that's actually really interesting. Git add dot. No, don't use git add dot. Yes, git add dot is very, very bad practice. Never use it. Okay, let's even with a git ignore, I'd say Produma, people are always missing things in git ignores and so forth. So I would always specify what files you want to add, and you can do multiple of them, like how we had public. You could do public, etc., and just put a space and just have a whole separation of them. So we need to do another commit again. So I would specify the whole path this time, because I have a feeling the commit didn't run last time properly, because it's a new file. But I would just do the same commit message. We're going to squash them anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you have the same commit message. I would just specify the whole path because I wasn't expecting the green M. And let's do that and see how that goes.
Cool.
No changes added to do a git state. No staged files. Wait a second. Git commit. Why is that happening? Let me see. We specified the file, so it should work. What have I missed? Yeah, see, MM has caused a serious confusion. It does, and I think our pre-hook is making it worse. We should probably add that to a GitHub action and remove it off the pre-hook, because if it happens on GitHub, then people don't mind, and automatic commit will go in from the GitHub action, and that's fine. So if someone could raise an issue, if one of the maintainers are watching, please add a high severity to that, because I think as great as it sounds, I think it adds confusion to that. But I guess it would have happened before the commit, but our commit didn't occur, so that's maybe why now we've got this kind of situation. But it could happen to anybody. But I need to try and figure out why that's not committing. Git commit -m the message. What? No stage file. We can stage it again, but we shouldn't have to because we specified it at the end. So let's stage it again and let's see if we can make it happy. But it's something that I need to look into and see. So perfect. And so if you do a status, I'll do the command. I was going to say status -s. And see, now it's gone. But I think this is really, really confusing. So if we do a git log, let's see what we've got. So we've got one commit from you, but the second commit didn't. We've got one commit, but
and that's the one we just did.
Yeah, which is really strange. So I think it's something I'm gonna have to run through and try.
Although
myself.
The time is from 9:43, which would have been 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's true. So why did we have the M, and when we added it, it then realized there were no changes? It could be line endings depending on your Git setup. So that also happens. So when the prettier and linter run, we should have checked it actually before, because now it's kind of gone, but it could have been line endings. And when we did the git add, Git changed the line endings and then said actually there's no changes when they thought there were line changes. So I should have done a diff to see what the changes were. But it's okay, we'll make some more changes and we'll see how this goes. So you've done a commit and you're in a branch. So now you could push this to your branch. It'll be Q. It's like Vim. Once you master Vim, I guess don't master Vim. When you figure out how to exit Vim, I should say, and remember, because we don't use it that often that we forget, and I do as well. So now you could push this to your branch in your fork, and then we can get a pull request raised. So because you're using, there's two ways you can do this actually. So yes, you can add it as an upstream, or another way you should be able to do it is you can specify the location and the branch. So you could go git push origin and then the branch name, add my profile. And the reason for this is the origin is always for everyone watching, the origin is always the repo that you cloned, but the original repo will be upstream. So we're going to have to pull down the changes. We're going to have to add upstream as a remote later on.
Oh, did I get the password wrong?
No, you didn't. So I was afraid this might happen. Support for password authentication was removed a year ago. And so now you have to actually use a token that you have to create in your profile. And I think it's harder than SSH. So,
it is.
So we can do this again in the GitHub UI, as this is, I don't want to waste too much time on debugging Git. And here I've finally learned how to exit Vim. Yes, exactly. I know. It's just, that might make a really good YouTube short, I think, and do really well. So what we could do is, if we go back to the terminal for a moment, and let's get your JSON file that was created. So you've got your path to your JSON file, and you could do cat, and then the JSON file, and that will just dump it out to the terminal. So cat's the command. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it will just dump it out to the terminal, and you could copy and paste that content, and that's what you created. Okay, and then if you go, you're in your fork, perfect. So if we go to right to the top, and at the top right-ish, next to where it says code in green, you've got add file.
Yeah.
And you create a new file. And then in the body of the file, in the file name, so we can do that first actually. So it was public / data / your GitHub username.json. And then in the body, paste in what you've got in your clipboard. But we want to make a few little changes here. So you want to remove the milestones object from line 18 to 27, I think. Yeah. And then also the trailing comma on 17. And then links wise, it's giving you a kind of a blank object, add a new one. Maybe just remove that last 12 to, yeah, perfect. And then you can always add these later on. So just a quick tip for everybody, always add a blank line at the end of the file. Otherwise GitHub will give you a kind of a red mark. So with no space, no nothing, completely just blank. It's a Linux thing that is needed for best practice. And so it looks good. So let's commit that. So you can give it a commit message. We do use conventional commit messages for this, but again, because we squash it, we can change it and fix it later on. It's not something that we have to enforce now. And then everyone following along, hopefully, say hi in the chat and thumbs up. And I always recommend committing to a branch. So down below, we can do it in a branch, and that branch name is fine. You can leave it as that. And the reason for doing it in a branch is because in the upstream, in the original repo, we will squash it, and then this will cause conflicts with yourself in the future when you make a future contribution. So it all worked fine first time, but second time it won't. So we should never commit to the default branch, even when you've got a project that's forked. The default branch should be a branch that's kept in sync with the original repo, and that will save everyone a world of pain and confusion. So yeah, propose new file, let's go. And back to the similar as before. So no, don't hit create. So if you, one thing you'll notice, there is GitHub doesn't know that you want to make it to a different repo. So if they should make this bigger, but where it says comparing changes, choose two branches, but you've got the link at the end, which is compare across forks. If you click that, it will now bring up the repositories, and you want to change the one on the left to be the original repository, which is top of the list. And you want to go from your patch 1 into main on the original. That looks good. So now you can hit create and go.
Yeah, that's easy to miss.
It really is really easy to miss. Like, I think if it's a forked repo, GitHub needs to kind of maybe just put that in like massive. Like, if it's not a forked repo, fine. But if it's a forked repo, it knows it's forked, but massive like writing.
But I guess in theory, I could do a whole load of feature branches on my main and then try and push those all at once. But then that would be a really gross PR to review, right?
Exactly. Yes. Welcome back, Carl. Carl missed all our challenges we just had with local Git and SSH and other commits and so forth. And I know what Carl's answer would be is use Gitpod. So maybe that's something we could do in another live stream. Gitpod, for people who don't know, Carl works for Gitpod. It's an open source project and allows you to have VS Code and editing all within the browser. It brings up if your project needs Mongo or anything in the Docker container, it brings all those up. So you get the whole dev environment in like 30 seconds, all built for you. So you can contribute to any project really easily. So it's pretty, and it's free. It's pretty awesome. Just hit create. Let's go. Again, forget the template. It's fine for now. Just to save time on the live stream. So that looks good. And if you want to ever check yourself, you can click on the files changed yourself as well, just to have a look. But I am going to steal the screen share back in a moment, and we can go have a look at the pull request.
That's cool that you've got a link for the reviewers to open straight in Gitpod.
This is my favorite feature on for Gitpod. is the pull requests, loading it in a whole dev environment to test it out. Because with a pull request, for example, like yours, we can see if it's correct. But say if it's adding a new button and you want some functionality you want to like test, and I got work already locally, I don't want to stash my changes or commit them to a branch and then bring down that pull request and all the rest to try it and test it out. I can just click on this button and it will open a whole dev environment in Gitpod. I can test it out. I'm happy with it. I can merge the pull request and just delete the entire environment all within a few minutes. So this
that's amazing.
Is really amazing. My favorite thing is that feature to do it for pull requests. It is brilliant. Okay, so I want to steal the screen share for a moment. Let's have a look. So we've got my screen now. Let's go to pull requests. And we've got Jesse's PR here. Let's look at files changed. This looks good. Happy with that. There's a space at the end here. And bear this in mind, everyone, when you're reviewing pull requests. I think some people get so focused on making it 100% perfect that it becomes a little bit of a blocker or gatekeeping for other people. I've really, over the last few months, realized that a pull request needs to be good enough, because someone else could make another pull request and fix that. Right? This is still going to work. It's not going to break anything. It's not going to cause any issues. So I think we shouldn't try and have 100 comments on some pull requests, because then it scares people off. So I'm gonna say, so by all means leave a comment, but it doesn't necessarily need to be blocking. And I sometimes say that. I might say extra space not needed, but not a blocker. Just to make people aware for future when they're doing a pull request in the future, or they might do a fix in a future pull request. But I'm still going to accept that. So thank you. And I'm going to approve. It's your first time doing a pull request to the project, so a maintainer needs to approve it, because people unfortunately use GitHub Actions to like mine Bitcoin and stuff. So now the first time someone contributes, see Praduma's already in there so fast. Love that. Really, really good.
Lightning fast.
Lightning fast, exactly. Yeah, it's very cool. And I love it how I don't even have to delete the environment on Gitpod. Like within, I can't remember how long the time is, like 7 days or 14 days. If you haven't used that environment, it just deletes it for you. And it puts it to sleep after 20 minutes or something anyway. So it's just so easy. Enjoy your meeting, Tom. Thanks for joining and supporting. Appreciate it. Wait for those checks to pass. And then we can merge it in. And I did talk about commits before, and how our whole deployment process works, and we're going to show you that. So if I was just to merge this in normally, then it would get merged in. And there's a couple of different ways we can merge this. So I would change it for this project, because we have a whole change log that gets automatically generated and all the rest. So what I would do here is, normally we would write chore, and that's because we don't want all the actions to run. But in this case, just to save time, I'm going to say fix, and that means more actions will run, and it will actually deploy it to our Kubernetes cluster. So I'll show you the GitHub action. It will create a GitHub release. I'll explain what that is in a moment. Then it will create a Docker container, and then it will deploy the container to our Kubernetes cluster as well. So let's just hit squash and go. I don't think I waited for everything to finish, but I'm sure it's fine. So now if I go to actions, and you can see these are running. We've got build, we've got format. I don't know what this one is. Why is this one not got a name? And this is releases. And when releases finishes, releases will have one step, I think. It's going to create a change log. When that finishes, it will then go to deploy. And what deploy will do, it'll run a build. It will create a Docker container, push it to the GitHub container registry, and then deploy that container to our Kubernetes cluster. And we will see it on Linkfree. So what I can show you actually as well, if I open Linkfree, we're on version 76.1 or 0.76.1. And 10 seconds ago, 76.2 got created. So a release is effectively a collection of commits. And in this case, it just says we had one. So we've got a change log. I can even show you the list of releases. And most of them only have one. Some of them have multiples depending on our commit message. If I go to maybe a bigger one, you'll see bug fixes, features, and other bits and pieces. But this is the pull request. This is the commit message. We can go straight to it. It's great that we get a change log. But this number is really important because we've got the release here. And then we have packages, which is our Docker package. So that will eventually bump to 76.2 as well. I should say 0.2. And when that bumps to 0.2, then it will do a deployment. Has it bumped to 0.2 yet? No, it's still on 0.1, so it's still running the GitHub action. So it still hasn't been created. When it is created, it will then also deploy it, and then we'll see it match up here as well. So we can see like everything will be in sync. It really helps when people say, I've got an issue, mine isn't deployed, or something's broken here. We can kind of see along the chain where it is broken. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Give the video a thumbs up if it makes sense. So Jesse, what questions do you have for us? Are we waiting for that to run?
So I think a question I've got is, when an open source project is at the beginning, how does all of the, how do you decide what actions you're going to have running on a project?
Great question. So what I recommend to do here is I would go to a project, and all the actions are within the project, as in within the code base. So you can go to .github, and you can go to workflows. These are all our GitHub actions in YAML config. And you can kind of steal them. Like most of them, you can probably copy and paste as well. But in terms of, to answer your question really specifically, like what would I recommend? Again, if we take a JavaScript project, and this can be done for any project, but I'm just going to use JavaScript here. We have our package JSON, and we have the scripts section. So really, a lot of these could be run on GitHub Actions. So for example, if the project needs linting, then I would run that on the GitHub Actions. So when people submit a pull request, they know if their linting is correct. Also, if you've got tests, if you've got a build, these are really important. When we've got automated tests with Cypress, we've got end-to-end testing, which actually drives the browser. But it's a really good way to automate a lot of these commands straight away. So that's what I would suggest, and also steal it from other projects as well, and see what they're doing. And to be honest, I think as the project grows, you'll want to automate as much as possible all the time. And I don't think it has to happen from day one. I think it can happen later. I think the releases one's a really good one. I think that's really, really important. You do have to change the way you do your commits, like your commit messages, but that's really good because it bumps the numbers already. So because yours was a fix, it bumped it to 0.2 at the end. But if the commit message said feature, it would then bump the minor. So
cool.
It's really, really good to have a lot of automation there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the most important is build validation, the PRs. Yes, I think, does the project kind of run? Does it compile or whatever, or does it build?
And so is that running build validation? Is that running all of your tests that you've put on the project?
So the build validation will run. Does the project build into like a production build? So in JavaScript, we do kind of like maybe tree shaking and minification and all those sorts of things. But that will check that it doesn't break when it's being built because the code has got no errors in it. So that's what that one is. But then we do have one for end-to-end tests as well. So every project's slightly different, but I would check that the project's as valid as possible. I think is the important one.
Okay, cool.
That's a really good question. So thank you so much. So Docker has been built. So now if I go back to here and go back to the packages, this will now say 0.2 at the end. 0.2. But if I refresh the page, this will still say 0.1. because it's still deploying. So we'll get there in a moment. Cool, let's have a look. Yes, so you want to, on the as many checks as you can, the pull request, you don't end up with a broken kind of default branch main, because as soon as main's broken and people update their forks, then or they create a new fork, all their stuff's going to be broken, and you get lots more questions and conversations, it just doesn't work and all the rest. So we need to keep our default branch as bulletproof as possible. So
I've got another question about
yes,
kind of
please.
forking. So usually, obviously, when I'm working at work, I am always connected to the main branch, and so I'm updating my my local branch by pulling all the time. But
Yeah,
how does that work with syncing my fork?
great question. Okay, we'll come back to that in a moment. So
Okay.
that's a really good question, and it's something that everyone struggles with. So I think it's really, really important, and GitHub has made this a bit easier now. So that's finished. That's deployed. So we should now, if I refresh the page, this should now say point two at the end. Let's have a look. So that's point two. So if we go search, and we should be able to find Jesse. Go to your profile, and there's your profile. And so we can click on
Oh,
this and
amazing.
go to GitHub. And then you can add all the other links that you want, and then you get your own unique link as well. So
Amazing.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And like I said, version 2 is coming out hopefully in the next few weeks maybe. We're working on it in the Next.js branch. We're going to use Next.js. And then you'll get stats on how many times your profile's been visited, how many times, which links are clicked the most, and all the rest. So we've got some interesting things. The artifacts to 11 megabytes. Yeah, there's a lot of JSON files. I don't know if we minify them. We have to check. Maybe we don't. I don't think we package them up though. Because we just read it, we kind of make an API request, not API, but yeah, API request to the domain, I suppose. Yeah, so we can keep an eye on Jesse's green squares on GitHub as well. Yeah. Okay, so your question was, so if we go back to your screen and you've got your fork, so if you scroll up to the top and go back to like the beginning part of your repo. So what have you got at the top? If you scroll up a bit more. And, okay, so this is the Eddie Hub repo. So if you click on link free, just after Eddie Hub community, yeah, perfect. We'll go back to the beginning of the repo, and we can see 8 minutes ago there was a changelog commit, and before that would have been your commit. So if you open in the next tab along, if you open your forked version, you'll see that it doesn't have that, so it's already out of date. So if you go to repositories, yeah, it should be there right at the top. So now yours was from 8 hours ago. So this is when you forked the project. You didn't fork it 8 hours ago, but when you forked it an hour ago,
That was
whenever it was,
yeah.
that was the latest one. And it says your branch is 2 commits behind. One is yours and one is the bot. So this is something I've never done before. So I really look forward to seeing this, because I do this on the command line, but I've never done it on GitHub UI. So let's see, it says sync fork. So let's have a look and try it. Update branch, let's go for it. And now, 9 minutes ago, so it's now synced. So that's awesome. That was a really good feature by GitHub. But to do this on the command line, you would need to add a remote. So we can do this on the command line if you want. You won't be able to, I know you had trouble with pushing and pulling, but we can set it up as if this was the case. So, yep, perfect. Do git checkout dot. Let's just remove that package lock so it doesn't cause any confusion. And now if you do a git status -s, there should be like nothing. It should be completely clean. So we've got no changes, but if we do a git log, we don't have your latest commit. And we can try and get that. Let's see if the SSH gods are friendly to us. So if you do a git pull, you'll probably have to do a git pull origin main, because you want to specify that you want to, you wanted to bring from your fork, merge main into your local main. So a pull is effectively a fetch and a merge in one command. So you've got that. So if you do a git log now, it's going to be the second to last commit is yours, and the one above it is conventional changelog. We didn't do good first issues yet. No, we'll do that next. Thanks, Carl. Remind me if I forget though, because I will. So so now that's updated. But if you, because we did it on the GitHub UI, but to do it on the command line, which gives you a lot more kind of flexibility and all the rest, you need to add an extra remote. So if you type git remote -v or -v, this will list, go ahead, hit enter, and this will list the repository that you cloned. So this gets set up automatically for you. So origin is the repository that you clone. But what you want to do is add an upstream, which is the original repository. And the way you do this is if you go back to your browser and you get the clone link from the original repo.
The original, yeah.
So and just the copy the clone link. It's HTTP, I think, didn't we use in the end?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. And then here you need to add a remote. So here you would say git remote add, then the name. So upstream's the recommended name, but you can call it anything you want, but upstream recommended, space the URL. So now if you hit enter and then do git remote -v again, you see now you have two. So we have four, but one's a push pull, and I'm treating them the same. So you have two. You have origin, which is your fork, which is the one you're an admin on that repo. It's under your account, and then you've got the upstream, which is the project that you forked. So the original project. So you will always push to the origin, to your forked version, because you've got permissions on that. But you can pull from the upstream. So what they actually recommend is you do a fetch to bring it down locally, but it doesn't affect your working directory, and then you do a merge to bring it in.
Okay, great.
So remember how we did git pull origin main? You could do git fetch upstream main, for example.
Origin upstream.
Sorry, no. Git fetch upstream. So origin or upstream is either or. So it's kind of where you want to go get it. So it's kind of like the location. And you brought down everything because we didn't specify what we wanted at the end. So it brought down everything.
Okay.
So now you've got all the branches, kind of all the tags, everything like that, which I always prefer doing because if you're going offline and you've got access to everything that you need. So that's how you would keep it in sync with the on the command line.
Amazing. Okay, cool.
Cool. So how are we doing on time? 1 hour and 15 minutes already. Wow, time goes fast when you're having fun. So let's just quickly, are you okay for another 5-10 minutes, Jesse?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. So let's since GitHub UI has that feature, I never went through the CLI pain of syncing up. Oh, really? Okay. I do it still on the CLI. I think I'm going to see how easy it was on the GitHub UI. I think I'm just going to use it there all the time. So yeah, just click that button. Okay, so GitHub good first issue. So let me steal the screen share again, and let me go through to another EddieHub project. Let's have a look. Jesse, do you do only back-end stuff with Python, or do you do any front-end?
I'm starting to dabble a little bit in front-end.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you playing with at the moment?
JavaScript and React.
Cool. Okay. So link-free projects written in React. So that's probably something.
Amazing.
If you do want to have a look at some React stuff, that's a good place to look. But for those of you who want to find good first issues, or you want to contribute to a project that uses Svelte, Svelte Kit, sorry Carl, Svelte Kit, which is kind of like, Svelte is the equivalent to React, and Svelte Kit is the equivalent to Next.js, which is like a full stack framework using with Svelte. So this is the good first issue finder that Carl mentioned. So let me open it up and show everyone. So the great thing about there's so many great things about this project, but one thing I really, really like is when you find an issue and it's showing you the good first issues, but it's a special label, EddieHub good first issue, and you can just look for ones in EddieHub, or you can search the whole of GitHub with it as well, because other projects, other community members are using in their projects. But what I think is really, really good is you can also just open it directly straight in Gitpod as well, which I think is an awesome feature that Carl mentioned. You just log in with your GitHub account. You don't even need to create a new account or anything like that. You just get going, no credit card details, nothing is needed. It's just awesome. You get the whole VS Code in the browser. And Carl, what else should I... Oh, I thought that's what you were suggesting in terms of good first issue. I just thought you missed the word finder at the end. I didn't. Or are you talking about something else, Carl? Let me know. So this is a great way to find projects. I forget what I was going to say now. But yes, this is quite a newish project, and it's really, really interesting. So people, again, it's using the same GitHub actions. We create the releases, we create the containers, it deploys to our Kubernetes cluster. Do we display the version number? Oh, we do. It's at the bottom here. Okay, perfect. 261. So 261. Perfect. Yes, so by all means, contribute to this project as well. I think Carl, oh yeah, we're missing a lot of docs and tests in this project, so it's a great way to contribute. And actually one thing that Carl did, which was awesome, so we've only got one test at the moment. I think someone has completed them already. Oh no, some haven't. So some tests have fix me, and so when you run the tests, it will say incomplete and it will give you the title, and Carl has put in comments to what you need to do on the test. So you can see the previous ones. This is navigate to the login page, and this is navigate to the login page, so you could use the same code here. And then this is checking for the H2 element to say login, and this is checking if the button contains the right text. So a little bit of tweaking is needed, but you've got the majority of it there. But also then when you understand that, the docs do need improving and updating as well. So we'll be doing lots of live streams on that over Hacktoberfest as well. So everyone, you can contribute with documentation, tests, code, so many things. Jesse, any other questions for us as well? So do jump in with any. I'll talk forever, so do just jump in with questions.
Yeah, no, well, it's kind of one for the future because I'm obviously just getting started, but what's the process like for becoming a maintainer for a project?
Great question. So I love this question, and we love adding maintainers on the ADR projects, especially because we get so many notifications. What I'd recommend to yourself and everybody else is you do not need to be an expert to be a maintainer. Maintainers usually have a place where they can chat with other maintainers and all learn together. And we have one in GitHub Discord, and it's great, like every day, to see different questions coming up, and we're all learning together, figuring out the best way to do something. And that's the way we learn, by having these challenges and figuring it out together. So the way to become a maintainer on any project really is to add value to the project, and that could be with code, that could be with maintaining issues, like saying this is a duplicate of this issue and linking it, and also reviewing other people's pull requests and leaving comments, and you can still approve them as not being a maintainer. The only thing that can't be done is you can't hit merge. So 99% of what can be done as a maintainer, it can be done without being a maintainer. And then when that person either asks or the existing maintainers reach out and say, would you like to be a maintainer on the project, then they're going to reach out to the people who are kind of doing it already. So that's what I would suggest, and it's a great way to learn really fast, because one, you get to work with different people who have different perspectives, maybe more experience or maybe different experience, different technologies, whatever it is. There's a great way to learn with them. And also being on the other side, I think contributing is amazing, but when you're on the other side as a maintainer, you really get to appreciate, well, that person didn't give me enough information. Let me write back to them and ask for more information, and so forth. And so when you're a maintainer, when you see that, your questions, the way you contribute, I think just naturally becomes better, because you get to see the flip side. So I'd highly recommend everyone trying to become a maintainer on any project. It doesn't have to be a massive project or anything like that, but I highly recommend people doing that. So that's a great question. Thank you so much, Jesse.
And then I have another one, but it's
Yes,
less technical and more just
that's
like
fine. I love questions, so keep them coming.
Okay, great. It's more about, so Hacktoberfest is a month intensive, everybody trying to contribute as much as possible to open source projects. But what's your advice for making sure that you continue that momentum after it, and making sure you don't overdo it in the month and kind of burn out essentially from contributing to open source projects?
That's a really good question, because it is sad that a lot of people stop after Hacktoberfest, and to be honest, they're just not doing themselves any favors, because hiring managers and recruiters are all starting to look at GitHub, and people don't just want to see resumes and LinkedIn profiles where people could write anything they want. They actually want to see people's work, but more importantly, see how people communicate and collaborate with other people. One of the tests I do when I'm hiring people actually is I ask them to talk about a project of theirs or ours or whatever it is, or the client projects I'm usually hiring for a client, and I ask them to raise the issue, and you can about what we discuss, and you can really see for the people who contribute to open source, because they raise it very, very differently. Someone who doesn't contribute to open source a lot of the time will write, following our discussion, I think we should choose option A. And because I purposely lead them down a path where we've had a discussion, and I'm like, well, pick which option you think's best. And they say, following our discussion, I pick option A. But people who weren't involved in that conversation, which, the whole team or the wider team won't be involved in that, even if it is a private project. So we always want to make sure we give context. Whereas someone who contributes to open source might write similar and say, following our discussion, but then they'll quote using Markdown a brief overview of what the discussion was of option A and option B, and then say, I think option A would be best for this. They give context, and I think open source teaches people that there are people dropping in, who aren't familiar with the project, that need a bit of context and maybe a link to somewhere and screenshot and all the rest, and open source teaches that. So I've kind of run a little rabbit hole, but so I would definitely say don't burn out, like you said. People shouldn't try and do like 100 pull requests in October and then go, I've had enough of that. I think they need to be consistent. So they should do as many as they can. If it's 4, it's 4. If it's 10, it's 10. If it's 1, it's 1. They should try and do the same in December, November, December, and keep that going. And the benefits from open source, the learning, the growing, the network, all that great stuff will happen over time. And I would say pick friendly projects. So I always recommend people to pick friendly projects. If you pick one that isn't very friendly, then it's going to kind of put you off.
How do I know if a project is friendly or not?
I'm glad you asked. So there's 2 things I would suggest people do. I would suggest they go to the Insights tab on any project once they find one, and go to the community standards and check that it has a code of conduct. That's really important. Check it's got a contributing file. Check it's got the right license. Like, what's the license? Is it an open source license? And if you click on it, it gives you some overviews of what the license is. So that's number 1. And then number 2, if that all looks good, I would go to the pull requests. I'd recommend going to the closed pull requests and look at the ones that have actually been closed and not merged. So this will list both, but the purple ones have been merged and the red ones have been closed. And you can go to any, really, but I would recommend going to the closed ones and just seeing what the conversations happen in the closed ones. So you can see straight away, so I've put Carl on the spot here, but you can see this has been closed. But Carl says, thank you very much for the contribution. You see my comment below. So it hasn't just been closed with no comment, and people don't understand why it's been closed and haven't learned from it. So there's been a discussion here, which is great. And then you can see the author of the pull request closed it. And I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with maintainers or the author closing them. But I think it's important that it's closed in a friendly way and everyone learned something from it. And then that way they can create contribution or pull request in the future as well. But some projects do just go through and just close the pull request, and that can be really, really disheartening and definitely put people off. So make sure you contribute to friendly projects, join a community, speak to your friends, see what projects they're contributing to, and see which ones are ones that they like contributing to as well. I think I'd recommend.
Amazing, thank you.
And Carl's saying it's hard to keep momentum because you don't receive a t-shirt afterwards. Yeah, I think people shouldn't do it for the t-shirt. They should do it for all the other benefits. And people say, Eddie, I've got this problem. I've got this job offer from this company. I don't really want it, but they're paying good money. And I've got this job offer from this other company. It's the one I really want, but they've negotiated me down so much. I'm not sure if I really want it anymore because the money's so bad. And I'm like, well, if we did open source and had a whole track record and you had companies coming towards you rather than you going towards them, they will negotiate, but they won't negotiate down, they'll negotiate up. So people should keep that momentum going because it will benefit them in 1 or 2 or 3 years in the long term. And I think that's just so important. I think people try and think, oh, how can I learn to negotiate like hardball and all the rest? And I think, why? It takes too much time and energy. Do open source, put yourself out there. I think it's really important. Create content like Jesse does with podcasts and so forth. And over time, companies will want you so bad that they're going to come to you and say, hey, look, whatever you want, we'll give you 20% more. And then they negotiate you up. And then it just makes it so much easier. So open source for me is content creation. It's part of that. So before we go though, Jesse, tell us more about your podcast.
Yeah, so I do a weekly show with Amber as part of the Coding Black Females podcast network. And what that looks like is interviewing different software engineers. Each show is kind of split into a few different segments. So we have like an introduction to them and their journey. We then go into the barriers that they had to overcome to get into their position. And then the second half with the guest is about their they introduce a technical topic in 10 minutes or less. So the tech topic in 10. And that's to try and demystify something in the area that they work in. And then they do a tech tea segment, which is always Amber's favorite part, where they discuss a controversial issue, a controversial opinion that they have about the tech industry. And that can get really interesting because we've kind of had a few about burnout and last week's one was about some of the day in the life TikTok trends of software engineers. And when they seem like their whole day is about going to the spa and getting coffees and eating these lavish lunches, but you don't actually see them do any code. So that was a funny one. But we're always looking for more ideas and things to discuss. So please do let us know what you think if you do check it out.
Sounds good. I was going to try and share a link, but I'm struggling to find it. On your GitHub profile, you don't have a link to your Twitter you have a customized profile. You need to add some links.
I know. I do need to add some links on there. My GitHub profile is looking pretty scarce. And as well, I only just realized that your contributions are only to things that is it public repositories?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So you won't be able to see any of the things I do at work, obviously.
Yes, we'll be able to see maybe a green square if you've enabled that, but we won't be able to see like what the green square was.
Okay.
I'm just going to share your Twitter in the chat. Or people saying they found you. I found you as well.
Amazing.
Carl says they don't do much content creation. I think you do, Carl. You join me on live streams. That's content creation. But we do more content documentation rather than creation. And I think that's the same. It's putting yourself out there. And you do a lot of open source again, which is awesome, which I think is, again, part of content creation too.
And community building, right?
Exactly, yes. So I think it's super, super important. Controversial topic, Web3. Enough content for 2 years. Yeah,
that would be a big one. That would be a few episodes, wouldn't it?
It would. Yes. So this is Jesse's profile on Twitter. I've dropped it in the chat. Go and give Jesse a follow. And also, when's that episode coming out? That sounded quite interesting about the whole TikTok and.
Yeah. So that was last week's episode, I believe. So that's already out on all podcast platforms. Okay. But we have a new one tomorrow with our final special. Okay, it's not final because it's not the end, but a very special guest tomorrow. I think we're going to announce it when we release the episode tomorrow. So.
Okay, you have to tell me after this live stream. Right?
I will do.
And one question: Do you your podcast? Do you put them on YouTube as well as videos? Because you record in the studio as well.
Yeah. It's on YouTube. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcast platforms.
Perfect. I love watching it on YouTube if I can, because I love seeing people's reactions, and especially you and Amber, you're really entertaining when you're kind of talking.
Thank you so much.
But obviously, if I'm cutting the grass or doing something, then I'll put my earphones in and do the podcast, not the YouTube. But I always try and do that for everybody. Do the YouTube first, like with Gary V and all the others, and only if I'm walking and I can't watch, then I'll put the relevant podcast on to continue listening. So. All links should be in Jesse's Twitter, I think, as well. So you should find everything on there. That's how I found it as well. So if you follow Jesse, you'll see the YouTube and the podcast and everything else. Jesse, thank you so much for joining me today. What you mentioned, you've got coming out tomorrow using your next podcast with a super exciting guest, so we can't wait for that. Anything else you'd like to say? Closing notes? Any final questions?
Just thank you so much. You've completely demystified. I just had this big blocker in my head about all of the processes, and I was a bit too scared. So I'm really grateful for this experience and the opportunity to kind of be walked through the process, because now I see it. It's not as scary as it seemed from the outside. And super excited to be contributing to open source code from today.
Awesome. From today, that's what I like to hear. So that is perfect. So that was a test. You passed. Thank you so much for making yourself vulnerable on the live stream and saying, hey, I haven't done this before, or I don't know how to do it. I really appreciate that, because a lot of people don't do that. And I think it's important that we normalize that it's okay to say, I don't know, can someone show me? And we go through it. And I know it's helped so many other people as well. I still see people saying, how do I contribute to open source? So if you've missed the live stream, you've just joined, it will be available on YouTube afterwards, and you can go back and rewatch it. And a big shout out to Jesse. Thank you so much for geeking out with me on a Monday morning. I had so much fun, and I can't wait for future geek outs on Twitter Spaces or live streams as well, and hopefully in person, because you're only kind of down the road. So
yes,
we'll do one
I'm sure
in
we'll
person.
meet very soon. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Sounds good. Okay, I want to end the stream, Jesse, but if you can hang on for a few more minutes afterwards, I'd love to say thank you personally. If you can. If you can't, just feel free to go, and we can chat another time. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll catch you on a live stream soon. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.